Hello and welcome to the third of my videos about Silent War. Today I'm going to focus on how the game itself works, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the campaign system and just all the different campaign mechanics we've used over the years. So the core element of Silent War is that everybody gets their 40k army, and then they also get some separate points to spend on, call it a persona, an inquisitor, Magos explorator, a rogue trader, who represents them on the tabletop. And as you'd expect, the inquisitor gets a retinue, or the Magos explorator gets some serfs to help them along the way. So they get points to spend on that, and that is separate to the army that they are using for the main 40k campaign. The other element is they get essentially character creation points, a bit like a role-playing game. They get points that they can use to make their character unique. So maybe it's to boost their weapon skill, maybe it's to give them a really cool relic, or maybe it's to give them some kind of it will not die rule. There's essentially a character creation system inside the campaign pack, and that allows everybody to have their own unique take on the Inquisition or the Magos or whatever. The way it works within the game itself is everybody has a standard 40k mission that they're playing. We've been using the new Tempest of War cards for the most recent one, and then they also have a deck of...
You weren't prepared.
I was very prepared. I'm here. Silent objectives. So these are cards that I've knocked up that have unique missions on them that the Inquisitor and his retinue have to try and achieve. And the idea is, within the campaign setting, achieving your silent objective, achieving the thing that the character has to do, is actually worth more campaign points than winning the game of 40k. Kind of trying to push the focus on the narrative in the event, rather than it just being about what army can I bring to smash my opponent. Talking about campaign points, the other thing that we do that's kind of unique within Silent War is how those campaign points translate into victory or loss for your team. So the very first Silent War we did, it was just a fairly straightforward, whichever team ends up with the most campaign points wins. I mean, it's easy, it doesn't require much brain power, not that exciting though. Second Silent War that we ran then, I decided to borrow from a classic board game. So as you may have seen from the narrative video that I did previously, it was a quest to try and find an artifact that had been stolen by Maddock Gunn. And what we decided was, every time you achieved your silent objective, not only did you get campaign points that would go towards your overall team total, but you would also be given a card that had either an item or a place on it. And these were the items and the places that we were not looking for. Yes, that's right, we borrowed the rules to Clue. The only difficulty we had was that not everybody had played Clue, or Cluedo as it is here in the UK, before, and so some people thought this was actually the items they were looking for, or these were the places they were looking for, leading to the slightly unusual situation that at the end of the weekend we went through and said, okay, whichever team has the most campaign points, you get to guess first what the item is and whereabouts it is in the Punic sector, and they guessed wrong. The next person guessed what are the cards that they had, because they thought that was the item they were looking for, and what are the planets that they had, and guessed wrong. And the eventual result was the team that had done the worst over the entirety of the weekend actually won the entire campaign, which gave everyone a bit of a laugh, and it emphasised that it wasn't really necessarily about winning, it was about taking part and having fun.
To be fair, which war game ever gives you a list of stats that aren't the ones you're using?
Just details. Anyway, it was hilarious to watch the team that had got all of about 4 campaign points go, well, hang on, we've listened to everybody else say what it isn't and where it isn't, so what's left? Oh, that's the answer, and win.
To be fair, that has also set a precedent for Silent Wars of completely unexpected outcomes.
Yeah, more on that when we tell you about what happened at Silent War this year. So Silent War 3, we kept with the theme of using classic board games, and my camera grot very kindly mocked up for me a website that was essentially a large map of the Punic system.
That wasn't a mock-up, it was working and everything.
It did whatever it was supposed to, it was brilliant. But yeah, a map of the Punic system, a grid reference overlaid over the top of that, and If you completed your silent objective, you got to guess a grid reference. You got, B2 or D9. And you click on the box on the website and it would reveal whether or not it was a hit or a miss. Yes, that's right, we did battleships, which actually worked really nicely in terms of hiding a bunch of MacGuffins scattered across the Punic sector and then letting people essentially go questing to try and find them. You don't have to do that with a website. You can do it just as easily with essentially a GM who has a map that shows where the items are hidden, and players, just like the classic game Battleships, call it out. You could even use a Battleships board and put pegs in things.
And just like a classic Battleships game, there was some deeply questionable logic about the choice of squares to unveil.
Yeah, people starting at the corners and working diagonally inwards. Yeah. Apparently it's something about, I don't know, triangulating it? Who knows? Anyway, that was a lot of fun. So Silent War 4, we carried on with the board game theme, and racking my brain of what classic board game to use, we went with what I dubbed Inquisitorial Pursuit. This Silent War was blessed by the presence of not one but two Black Library authors who came along, so I tailored the questions to make sure that some of the stuff that they had written was on the cards.
Oh, that's why I don't remember that one. I wasn't present.
No, you didn't make it to that one, but yeah, we had joyous fun calling out questions specifically about things those authors had written and then watching them get it wrong. But again, if you successfully got the question right in a particular category, then you got a piece of pie, or piece of cheese as some people called it. And once you've gotten a full circle of cheese, then you were in the running to who had won the overall campaign. I'm going to test the camera grot in a minute with some questions on that, and we'll see how she does.
Why?
Let's see if you get any of these answers right. Inquisitorial Pursuit. Okay.
Yeah, but the answer on the back is to the questions on the last card, not the question you're about to read.
Oh, that's fine then. Okay, so the categories were the Riemann Worlds, the Poison Worlds, the Blitz Worlds, the Graveyard, and Film Trivia.
Let's go for film trivia.
Film trivia.
I can never remember movies or actors' names, so I'm onto a slightly better thing than it being the background.
Who did Simon Phoenix call an evil Mr. Rogers?
Who's Simon Phoenix?
Moving on. Name the original actor who played the Predator.
A guy.
Who played the role of Pris in Blade Runner?
Which one's Pris?
That one's upside down.
Oh, I got a slight... No, never mind.
What was the name of the chain of robot taxis in Total Recall?
I do not recall that movie.
You sure you want to stick with film trivia?
Yeah, because I still think I'll do better than any of the others.
Who played the Duke of New York?
There's a Duke of New York.
Who played the Dark One in the film Legend? Must know this
Tim
one.
Curry.
Yes!
I know
You got one right! Okay, well, so you'd have to be a few turns on campaign there to get a piece of pie there, but you'd get one eventually.
I wouldn't lose.
At least you didn't write any of these.
Okay, can I have the cards then? Give me the cards.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let's see how many I can remember.
Viewers. Okay.
Go on.
What's red with B?
That's
what
not...
category is that?
Oh, the Blitz Worlds.
Okay, so Blitz Worlds.
Okay.
What is the sector capital of the Gothic sector?
Ooh, I know this one. I should know.
I hope you know this one. You wrote it. Have I chosen a good one?
You have chosen an excellent one. Blitz Worlds category is all about famous battles in the 40k universe. Capital. Portmore.
Damn it!
Hey! Let's move on before I embarrass myself further. Thank you. Anyway, Inquisitorial Pursuit, that was an awful lot of fun. I might pop a couple of questions up at the end and you can put your answers to them in the comments if you feel like it. Silent War 5 then, I was at a bit of a loss as to which classic board game to visit. Luckily, the offspring of the Camera Grot and I developed an innate fondness for the board game Snakes and Ladders at that point, so it seemed only appropriate to send all the players diving into a Space Hulk, and we played Ducks and Steelers. This, slightly embarrassingly, I ended up winning that year because one of my friends who was doing all my rolls for me seemed to only be able to roll like the optimum thing to climb up every duct. And so the Forces of Darkness won that year and got to the heart of the Space Hulk and were able to free the dread demon that was located there. The final Silent War that we've done thus far, so this year's Silent War, was delayed for a couple of years due to the pandemic, but that did give me plenty of time to hone and refine the eventual result.
Hold on, the eventual result or the eventual game?
The game that we played.
Because that sounds awfully like you just fixed the last Silent War.
I'm in no way responsible for the fixing of the last Silent War. Murray is basically responsible for the fixing of the last Silent War. But anyway, the Silent War 6, the players were sent racing around the Punic sector, trying to gain control of key planets for their factions, using the almighty Throne Gelt as the credit of choice. In case you can't tell, it's Monopoly. We had lots of fun with the Changer of Ways and the Blessings of the Golden Throne sections, with people landing on essentially chance or community chest.
But you also let people go backwards, and I don't remember that in Monopoly.
That's true, I should have mentioned. One of the vagaries that we added to this was if you successfully completed your silent mission, you got to roll on this. If you won your game of 40k, you got to roll on this. If you managed to do both, you could re-roll the choice that you rolled, and you could move forwards or backwards around the sector, which added some interesting little elements to it, with people diving around sort of into the Imperial sector to try and gain control of core worlds, or going racing over towards kind of the demonic warp rift to try and gather a full set of the planets there. The final result, you'll have to watch the video of the various games that were played, but one of the core principles we've always said to Silent War is that it's all about what the players want to do. It's about allowing little kind of weird stuff to happen. So whether that's getting players to essentially engage in grudge battles, putting skin in the game, and having characters fighting for their lives, gaining extra credits if they put their Inquisitor's future within the campaign system on the line.
And a little bit like most political systems in the world, backroom dealings.
Yeah, again, that's it. It wouldn't be a kind of a narrative inquisitorial themed campaign if there weren't secret talks happening behind closed doors and shenanigans being planned. But that's gave us a bit of a surprising upset to the result of this year's Silent War, which you'll have to watch my other video to find out.
I think to one Inquisitor it wasn't an upset whatsoever.
No, but it was extremely funny. Okay, so thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it's given you a little flavour of how Silent War has kind of worked as a game system. Hopefully it's given you some ideas about different ways you can run your campaigns yourselves in the future.
So, next Silent War, what board game?
I'm still torn between doing Hungry Hive Fleets and just having everybody desperately paddling away on some plastic Tyranids, or maybe doing something like Game of Life and having them with little plastic rhinos racing around the board, adding little acolyte pegs into the top. There are too many great options. I'll have a think about it, and maybe I'll do a video next year about what next year's Silent War is going to be like. I'm going to put a link up at the end of the video that will give you the chance to download the rules pack for this year's Silent War. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. Secret bonus feature, here are some inquisitorial pursuit questions that you can test yourself on. Please, by all means, pop the answers down below in the comments. Riemann World section. Who is the current Fabricator General of Mars?
Me.
Poison World section. What is the other names of Drachnian?
Me.
Blitz World section. What was the name of the shrine world on which Gaunt's ghosts defended the mortal remains of Saint Sabbat?
Definitely me.
Graveyard section. What was the name of the Muti Citadel in Gorka Morka?
Me,
and
me.
Revisiting our first film trivia question, who did Simon Phoenix call an evil Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, I'm done.
Thanks for watching, everyone.